and thank you everyone for attending today. I apparently have 10 minutes to go through all this data, so it will be a bit of a challenge. I'm waiting for the first slide to be put up. There it comes. And the name of the report, of course, being Achieving the Promise, Ending Poverty in Alberta. Put out, as Laurie mentioned, by the Social Planning Council, Public Interest Alberta, and the Alberta College of Social Workers. This particular slide, and all of these are in the report, I should mention. And I'm not having time to go through all of them, but they are more or less in the order in which they are in the report. And what this first chart looks at is, in percentage terms, the number of children living in poverty or in low income using the low income measure after tax. And the red line shows the number of children and youth under the age of 18 over a 20-year period between 1990 to 2010. And then the yellow line shows it breaks out the under 6, so the newborns to age 5. And a couple of things are of note. One is that this data is generated by Statistics Canada from an annual survey. It's always somewhat frustrating to us who work in the social policy area. It's called data lags. The most recent data we have is for the year 2010. The type of survey that it is, it's better to measure trends over time, and so we've measured them over a period of 20 years. And as you can see, if you look at children and youth as a whole, there's been some slight improvement in terms of the reduction in terms of the poverty rate over this past 20 years. The picture is not quite as good for the under 6 years old, particularly since about 2002. The number of younger children living in poverty has actually increased somewhat in percentage terms. For the under 18s, this translates to 91,000 children living in poverty, which is one of 9 children in Alberta. In 2010, there was a bit of improvement. It was about a 12% decrease from 2009, which was the height of the recent recession, and the number of poor children and youth did spike in that year. Again, if you look at children under 6, the rate is somewhat higher than the under 18 rate. There's 48,200 young children, 1 in 6, living in low-income families in 2010, and that was actually an increase of 6% compared to 2009. So definitely something we should be aware of. Next slide. This breaks down the poverty rate by family type, and the yellow line corresponds to female lone parents, and the red line to two-parent families. And I think that this is reasonably well reported, but we thought we would show you the trends over the last 20 years. Female lone parent poverty rates are consistently higher. There's been some improvement. The two-parent family rate has stayed relatively constant over that 20-year period. There's been some improvement in the female lone parent rate. However, in 2010, about 1 in 3 female lone parent-headed families with children continues to live in poverty. Next slide. What this slide shows, again, over this 20-year period, is the percentage of Alberta children where one or more of their parents works full-time for the full year. This is a custom tabulation that Statistics Canada does for us, and what it shows is that in 2010, over half, 52% of Alberta low-income children and youth under the age of 18 are living in families where at least one parent works full-time for the entire year. This is important because more so than in any other province, the face of poverty in Alberta is working poverty, and this speaks to the solutions. Like, for example, if we simply said, well, raise the welfare rates, and that's the only thing we did, in Alberta, that is definitely not a sufficient response. In order to address poverty in Alberta, we definitely have to look at ways of raising the incomes of working poor families. The next slide. Next slide shows that Alberta is becoming a less equal society. And what it does is it divides Alberta families with children into 10 equal groups. Those are called deciles. And it measured this in constant 2010 dollars. So this takes out all of the effects of inflation. And as you can see, in 2010, the real incomes of the richest 10% of Alberta families have doubled in the past 20 years after inflation. And the family incomes of the poorest 10 and 20% have gone up much more modestly. There's another chart in the report that measures the same trend in terms of the Gini coefficient. So again, this is something that we have to be attentive to, that Alberta has been, a fairly prosperous province, certainly if you compare us to other provinces, but certainly the benefits of that prosperity have certainly not been shared equally among all Albertans, but have gone more to people at the top end of the income scale. Next slide. In addition, although the previous slide dealt with the annual survey data of Statistics Canada, but we did want to include some more recent data as well, and where it exists. This is data from the labor force survey that Public Interest Alberta orders for all of us every year. And what it shows is it divides what we define as sort of being low income or low wages is there's different ways of measuring it, but for the purposes of this report, we looked at $15 per hour or less. And the reason for that being is that you'd have to kind of make about that kind of money as a single person to reach the poverty line in Alberta. And as you can see, despite some of the misconceptions about this, most low-wage workers are actually older adults, 25 years or older. As the chart shows, from between April 2011 to March 2012, 58% of Albertans earning $15 or less were adults 25 years or older. Next slide. There's also a very strong gender difference in terms of who makes the low wages in the province. And again, this is only Albertans 25 years or older, so it doesn't include youth. And as you can see, there's quite a gender difference in terms of who's making the low wages, with about roughly two-thirds being women and one-third being men. And again, if you look at adults 25 years or older, many of these women are likely to be women with children, female lone parents, and again, this is an important social policy challenge in terms of folks who are in the labor force but are earning low wages. Next slide. This slide shows the unemployment rates of the Alberta population and breaks out youth and Aboriginal people. The yellow line being the overall population, and then the red line corresponds to youth ages 15 to 24 who are in the labor force. And the green line corresponds to Aboriginal people, which includes both First Nations people and Métis people living off reserve. So it doesn't include on reserve Aboriginals, only off reserve Aboriginals, folks who live in cities and so on. And as you can see, youth and Aboriginal people were disproportionately impacted by the recession that began in the fall of 2008 and have since been slower to recover. Unemployment overall has dropped quite a bit, particularly since the 2011 into 2012, but it's been less so for youth and Aboriginal people living off reserve, where the unemployment rates are either near or still in double digits. Next slide. The next slide shows the Alberta Works caseloads. This is both for expected to work, not expected to work, and this new category of temporary unavailable to work. And this is reported monthly on the Office of Statistics and Information of which I believe is now run by Treasury Board and Finance. But nonetheless, It shows two things. The red line shows the number of caseloads of folks on social assistance. And each case represents on average 2 people. So what the yellow line represents is the percentage of Albertans that are actually on social assistance. And as you can see on the right margin, it's it has tended to be between 1 to 2%. Social assistance caseloads peaked in the year 2010. They have been declining slowly since. So if we could go to the next slide, which is on employment insurance. This shows a somewhat similar trend. The one difference being that, as you can see, in 2009, there was a huge spike in folks in Alberta receiving EI benefits. Part of the reason for that, again, is because so much of our poverty is working poverty. Most low-income people work. And of course, they were often the ones in the recession that were first to lose their jobs or get their hours cut back and what have you. So it caused a huge spike in 2009. And since then, it's gone down. And again, another thing, the yellow line shows that the percentage of employed Albertans per year that are drawing unemployment insurance benefits. This is very recent data going right through into 2012. And as you can see, as a percent of employed Albertans, again, between about, at its peak in 2009, about 2.5 for every 100 employed Albertans, there were 2.5 people drawing EI benefits, and that was in the peak year of 2010, and it's gone back down into about 1.2 Albertans drawing benefits to about 100 employed Albertans. So that's what that graph shows. One more chart, my last chart, is the percentage of children lifted out of poverty by government transfers. And again, this is getting back to the 20-year period between 1990 to 2010. And what this chart shows is how many more children would be living in poverty in the absence of federal and provincial government income transfers. And it shows a couple of points are worth noting. In the year 2010, 47.2% more children would have been living in poverty in the absence of these transfers. So these transfers, as they currently exist, already make a very positive difference in the lives of children across the country, and certainly low-income children and Albertans. And that sort of speaks to the solutions. Many of the solutions involve building upon what we already know is working well. And finally, the trend line is also slightly positive. We're doing, over this 20-year period, we seem to be doing a better job of lifting children out of poverty through government income transfers. So that's the end of my presentation, and I'll